Phil Newman here, and I've been through the GlycanAge test, which was very seamless, and I haven't seen my results yet. And a part of the protocol of the GlycanAge service is a one-to-one with a clinically trained professional, and I'm glad to say that that clinically trained professional is Alex. So, Alex, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, great. Well, excited to learn the results, and perhaps you could just introduce yourself, Alex, just so that people understand your, your background and your role in the company.
My background is academic, and I mostly do scientific research in epigenetics of protein glycosylation. So I come from the academia, and I work as a consultant for GlycanAge. That's about it. I'm doing participating in basic research behind the GlycanAge, because we're always trying to make the test even better. But the basics are here. They have been around for about a decade. So let's start with your results, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it, Alex. I'm keen to understand whether I'm older or younger or just the same. Either way is fine.
Just the same. So your biological age matches your chronological age exactly. It's, if I may say that, for the record.
Of course, yeah. I think most people know that I'm 55. So that's...
And you're 55 in the Glycan book. So, 55 years biological age. There are many tests out there that claim to tell you your true biological age. And the thing is, a little bit of context is needed. So I'll be really brief. And so what we measure is your immunoglobulin G, the most abundant antibody, and how pro-inflammatory it is. And the level of how pro-inflammatory it is determined by the glycans, the branched sugars attached to the protein molecule. They act as a switch between pro and anti-inflammatory. So we measure about 27 structures on different glycan structures on the IgG, and we have a statistical model that deals with that type of data in a reasonable way, and a reference cohort to compare it to, a very high quality study, Twins UK. And that's how we come up with your inflammatory potential expressed conveniently and intuitively as years of biological age. This would mean that your immune system functions as that of an average healthy 55-year-old.
Okay, well, that's great to hear. Pleased about that. And yeah, I mean, obviously, it's very interesting to me that, well, the 55 age identification does reflect some of the other epigenetic tests that I've had. And of course, I'm very interested as a industry watcher as to how all of these various tests start to align or misalign on some of the predictions that are made. So that's really good to hear, Alex, and keen to to learn more about my inflammatory markers and how you see how that affects my health, as likewise some of the guidance you can give me on what I should be doing to improve things, perhaps.
Of course. Just one brief comment on different tests. So they essentially measure different things. Epigenetics tests measure how much information about gene transcription has been lost from the cells. And that is one metric for aging. This one is for the immune function. And it is surprising how much information an excess or having relatively less low-grade inflammation can tell about your health status. Granted, it's one-dimensional metric, but I'll do my best to interpret it right now. So on the page 3 of your report, there is your biological age. It's an aggregate metric of low-grade inflammation, and that is one number I trust the most. Why? Because we have a really large reference cohort. It's been validated, and it tells you, okay, in terms of age expressed as years of biological age, you have more or less or just about what one would expect for a healthy individual of low-grade inflammation. Now, to give a little bit more nuance to the results, let's skip straight to the page 5 with the pro-inflammatory index we call glycan mature. This is not a product of a statistical model. This is real measurement, a data point. And it shows that you have, well, just about the average for your age group of this pro-inflammatory glycan. And if you scroll up a bit to the page 4, there are the anti-inflammatory indexes, glycan youth and glycan shield. And if you look at the molecular outline in the middle, you can see that they're pretty much on the same biochemical pathway. So as those IgG glycans get built up more and more, they get more anti-inflammatory. And although it's more involved how to calculate your biological age than just by looking, if I were to slide this arrow a little bit, I could tell which way your biological age would change, but not by how much. They should tell the same story like the biological age itself.
Yeah, very good. And I guess that great that I'm not older than my chronological age, so that's really good to know. So in terms of what that means, with the view that you take on inflammation, which is a big issue as people get older, I personally feel I do have an inflammatory issue in my body. I don't know. For me, it's things like my fingers when I'm typing. Sometimes the joints on my fingers ache. And I feel that that's not arthritis. I feel like that's inflammation in my system. So, are you finding that there is a higher level of inflammation in my statistics, or am I still average again on that?
So, your biological age is actually the metric that we say as the final result. Okay, it's just about what we would expect for you as a healthy individual.
So as you get older and you get more aches and pains, that's part of getting older. But my aches and pains are probably about right for me being 55.
Well, that's way to put it. Yes. So we have a component called natural aging, and that's exactly what you said in plain English. Like, yes, as we get older, we get more inflammation, and that's quite normal to be expected, actually.
Understood. That's great. Well, keen to learn more, Alex. What else have you got?
I mean, this result is not necessarily static. It's not your destiny. There are interventions you might implement to improve your biological age, meaning that you can get your immune system to be biologically younger. Now, here's the chicken and the egg problem. So the immune system reflects your overall health. So if you're doing well, if you're doing the right interventions, it is likely that they will reflect upon your immune system and how it works and make it less pro-inflammatory. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work anymore. It means it's able to downregulate itself when it has done its job, like clearing an infection or anything or something like that, what immune systems do normally. So let's start with your medical history, if you're willing to share. Is there anything you think that might be important for this conversation that you wish to share, and let me know?
Oh, well, I guess, Alex, I've been suffering with symptoms of chronic fatigue now for 4 years. And I have been dealing with that as best as I can. And I do feel that's improved. I've changed my diet. I don't really exercise as much as I used to before chronic fatigue. I was quite a endurance, I wouldn't say athlete. I was very much an endurance amateur, but I used to do very, very big cycle rides, like 24-hour bike rides that were, 500K and things like that. So I pushed my body quite hard. And I think my body, just gave up, really. So that's why chronic fatigue hit me. But also I run a very exciting but very demanding startup business. So that takes its toll as well. So I feel I'd be interested to know whether you're seeing anything that reflects that in your in your results. And interestingly, I've just come back from a trip to the States where I went to the Healthy Longevity Clinic in Florida, and they identified that I've got some early onset hypertension and cardiovascular disease, which I guess reflects again being 55, but also reflects the fact that I'm not superhuman. So I was interested to see what else you might be finding out.
Okay, so I read through your health questionnaire, and it seems you're leading a really healthy lifestyle. So on top of that, are those things that the GlycanAge test typically picks up and reacts to, like early stage cardiovascular, cardiometabolic issues? It will show an increased biological age. So, without those factors, it might have been lower, it might have been better, more favorable overall. And as for chronic fatigue, even the specialists that specialize in chronic fatigue are actually, I wouldn't call them clueless, but it's far from being fully understood. So it's still a mystery condition. It may or may not have an inflammatory component.
Yeah.
It affects lifestyle. So in a roundabout way, it definitely will eventually reflect upon your result from the GlycanAge test, but I'm not sure that we're able to measure it directly since it's not strictly inflammatory.
Understood. Okay. Well, I guess that's really clear, Alex. And of course, chronic fatigue is now being aligned with long COVID. So quite interesting that the medical community is starting to get more aligned on it. And I do believe that there are even some potential microbiome elements to fatigue, which might come into play. But enough of that. I think that's great. I mean, I'm interested to learn what else you've got.
Okay, so let's start with your lifestyle. So if chronic fatigue is the only one, the only medically relevant condition that you wish to share, think is important for this conversation, let's move on to the two pillars of lifestyle. Diet and exercise. Of course, with the exercise part, we'll have to come back to the chronic fatigue, but let's start with your diet. So I see you're not eating much sweets or fats. So what is your diet like in terms of calorie intake versus expenditure? And are you happy with your body image?
Yeah, I feel I'm carrying a bit too much weight on my body. That's a kind of on my torso. That's one of those things which you get, I think, being so sedentary as I am. But I am trying to maintain my exercise. And I feel that I've been through a period of the winter where I was eating quite a lot of comfort food, and I've kind of stopped that. So I feel that I'm going to be getting closer to my target body image and weight over the next couple of months.
Well, I can relate totally. I know the winter time, it's not conductive of outdoor activities, and it makes us just sit at home and eat a little bit more. It's quite normal. So one thing I would recommend, when doing it, so first, and please correct me if I'm wrong, from the health questionnaire, I got the impression that you're not overeating. You're more focused on vegetables and healthy food, not too much of it. So I would speculate that the main thing that you can do to improve your body image would be like focusing on exercise instead, which we'll come to as our next topic, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, I know I should be doing more. I need to be careful how much I do, because if I over exercise, I then become fatigued. But I know I can be doing more. So interested to know what your recommendations are on that, Alex.
Okay, so the first thing, chronic fatigue is a specific condition that constrains the amount of exercise that you can do comfortably without causing unwanted side effects. So definitely you need to titrate the amount of exercise to the highest level attainable without any adverse effects. And as you mentioned, which I'm happy to hear, so your symptoms are currently mild and you're in remission regarding chronic fatigue. So do you think you might be able to squeeze in a couple sessions of strength or resistance training?
Well, I would love to. I have to say that I do find that if I have got weights at home, and if I do weights, I find that that does spike my fatigue. So it might well be because I'm quite an alpha personality. I go too heavy too quickly, so that might be one of the issues that I've got. But I'd be interested to hear what you would recommend I should be doing.
I would definitely recommend strength training if feasible, so over cardio, and for a good reason. Evolutionary, we're long distance runners. Like endurance, humans as animals, excel at long distance running and endurance. So it is surprising how little the metabolism gets activated with classical cardio. It's cardio, so it's good for the cardiovascular system, but it typically won't give so much like increase in the metabolic rate, which we need for like maintaining a healthy body weight, maintaining a level of metabolic, so higher metabolism that helps us operate at our optimum level. And so if we do, for instance, hours on end on the treadmill, it is surprising how little calories are burned that way. On the other hand, there is no fooling physics. If you're working against resistance and you take a metabolic conversion rate, like from energy contained in food to a mechanical work, about 20–25%, there is no way around it. So if you're lifting something or stretching something, pushing against, the metabolism gets activated. There is no way to optimize against that. I would highly recommend strength training as a time-saving and effective way to train. We're all overworked and have packed schedules, so I think it makes sense and it's very effective. The only question is, how much of it are you able to do given the chronic fatigue?
Yeah, well, I guess that's a case of starting small and building up, right? Because, as I say, I normally go in too hard too early. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to try that again. And I've got a very good regime around what I do in the gym. So thanks for the reminder, Alex. I better get back on it again.
Oh, because I think that's, I mean, for an hour at the gym, it's better spent at lifting weights than doing cardio outright. I say outright because lifting weights can be cardio as well. It can double as cardio. And one other thing, I got a personal trainer. I do have a quarter of a century of experience in exercise, and yet I can learn from a trained professional, so highly recommend it. And one thing I learned is the exact posture and what I would call honest effort. So not grabbing the largest set of weights immediately, like some young people, young guys might be tempted to do and grab and show off a little bit. It doesn't matter. It can be a small set of weights with many repetitions with the correct posture. It is surprisingly difficult. A few centimeters, a little bit of a small shift in your posture, doing everything right as it should be done, always without help from different posture to grab a larger set of weights. It's more important than the weight itself. So as long as you're working against resistance and you don't have to overdo it, really. It's still effective.
Okay, yeah, good advice, Alex. Well, they're at home, so I can use them. So I better get on it a bit more.
I would suggest that. You might be surprised with the result, and you can see for yourself whether it works. But I bet it will be effective and you'll like it in the long term. I'd like to hear any feedback that you have.
Okay, sounds good.
So that would be two things. So your diet is, if I understand it correctly from the questionnaire, quite clean, no ultra processed food.
That's right. Yeah, I really have tried to avoid processed food. Occasionally there'll be life circumstances where you can't avoid it, but I do tend to try and eat balanced meals, good mixture between carbs, protein, and vegetables. And yeah, I'm avoiding as much of the processed and sweet products that I possibly can.
I see. I mean, it's like a long-term commitment. It's not just, like a date with your lunch or something. So one-offs don't count at all. If you indulge occasionally, it's perfectly fine. We won't be able to measure it ever, so it will go under the radar. The important thing is what you do most of the time. And so this ultra processed thing might sound like blanket advice, you should stay away from it. But actually, I read some really interesting and well put together papers that show how terrible ultra processed food is for both the appetite and glucose regulation. So I would strongly advise against it. Another thing, if that's okay. So another thing about your diet, are you getting enough protein?
Yeah, so the protein that I'm taking on is mainly in the form of fish. So I eat quite a lot of mackerel and tuna, and I will eat red meats occasionally, perhaps once or twice a week. And I have been vegetarian most of my life. So one of the reasons I'm eating meat now is because I was advised by a nutritionist that I should start taking on more deeper quality protein than a vegetarian. So I was vegetarian between the age of 16 and 53. So that's it.
Yes, one thing I have to say about it, plant protein simply doesn't cut it. It's not good enough. And guess what? You're hearing it from a vegetarian. I get most of my protein from animal sources, just not by eating meat outright. So no animal parts, but dairy, eggs, even some light supplementation with whey protein. That's a good cheat to get many grams per day without actually eating a lot of stuff. So, but definitely plant protein. Simply, as much as I'd like to go full vegan, it's really difficult. It's not really compatible with a healthy, balanced diet unless you have someone like cooking for you all day, which won't happen, right?
No, that's really interesting to hear. Well, I guess that it was quite a big barrier for me to get back into eating meat after such a long time. But I'd say I won't go back now. I think that whether it's taste or whatever it may be, I'm still quite selective about what I take on board. But I would say that I'm a carnivore, more pescatarian than carnivore. But I won't be going back to being vegetarian now.
I would always recommend that. As a vegetarian, I would recommend not being vegetarian, but including some meat as well. I'm dealing with it in my own way, but having some fish, that's a fantastic protein source and really good food overall. So, and now speaking of fish, you mentioned also some supplements that include a lot of fish oil, right? Omega. Would you like to discuss supplements, and I give you my honest opinion on them based on biochemistry that I'm familiar with?
Yes, I would be very interested in that, Alex, because of course, supplements play a big part of the wellness industry, as well as certain supplements applied to the longevity industry. So that, of course, is of great interest. And yeah, my expenditure on supplements is not insignificant on a monthly basis. I do take a lot of the omega-3 and krill oil just really to sort of help myself protect neuroprotection for the future, because dementia is in my family, and I know dementia comes from other sources as well. Whether it's plaque-based or whatever it may be. So yeah, I probably overdo it on the oil front as well. But I'm so interested to hear what you've got to say.
Okay, first on the oil front, one thing I would really kind of urge you to calculate is your overall vitamin D intake. Vitamin D toxicity is a thing, and it's quite insidious. So if you have like fish oil, krill oil, and vitamin D in those 1-a-day tablets, it might add up to substantial doses. Now, NIH recommends no more than 4,000 units per day, which works out to 100 micrograms vitamin D. And if you have 1,000 units, it's enough for full supplementation. We're talking about no other sources, not seeing a ray of sunshine, and you're good. You're still over what your body needs. So could that be an issue? Could it be too much, over 4,000 units per day? Because if so, I would definitely recommend lowering the dosage, because it serves no good purpose and might actually end up being toxic.
Well, that's very interesting. So you're saying that I'm getting in the diet, the supplement stack that I've got, that there's too much vitamin D balance in there, taking on that I'll get vitamin D parts.
There might be, because fish oil is a significant source of vitamin D, and there are even some vegetarian varieties, like vegetarian fish oil. It sounds like an oxymoron, but people try to put everything in there from plant sources, and they add vitamin D just because everyone expects it as a component of fish oil. So it's so ingrained in this idea about what fish oil should do. So I would definitely control vitamin D for not taking too much of it. Unlike the B complex, we'll go to that as our next topic, because it's very interesting. But B is water soluble, so toxicity is, well, I guess it's possible, but it would be an achievement really to poison yourself with any of the B complex. It's water soluble. The D is fat soluble. It has a very slow metabolism, a tendency to build up, and slow elimination. So it takes some effort for the body to remove any excess.
So to be clear, Alex, with the vitamin D and the omega-3 that I'm taking, would you say that I should stop taking the omega-3?
No. I would just go through all vitamin D containing supplements and add up the amount of vitamin D and adjust accordingly, not to go over some 4,000 units per day. As for omega-3, there is some, so you have high EPA variety, and I think there is some research confirming that there might be benefits for omega-3, and I do not have a strong opinion about it, but I can recommend it. I take it occasionally myself. So I think omega-3 is fine. It shouldn't break the bank, as it's usually not terribly expensive, is it?
Yep. No, it's it's part of the supplement package that I get from a company. But yeah, that's interesting to know. So really what you're saying I should be doing is looking at all of the vitamin D levels in the supplements that I'm taking, because some of them are combination supplements.
And just not overdo it.
Yeah, understood. Okay, great. Thank you.
Then we go to, I see most of your supplements are focused on the energy metabolism, right? They have something to do with it. So let's start with NMN and NR. There's been some controversy about these supplements. They're essentially glorified vitamin B3. So nicotinic acid. Our body is perfectly capable of forming NAD plus out of nicotinic acid, which is, I would call it dirt cheap, like it costs next to nothing, and these can get really pricey. They have some additional components. Now, NR, nicotinamide riboside, it has a sugar ribose, and kind of makes sense. It's one metabolic step less to form the full NAD plus. And NMN is even closer. It's one step away from it. It just needs the adenine nucleotide to form NAD. And the problem with it biochemically is that it's phosphorylated, and without a transporter, that's basic biochemistry, without a dedicated transporter, it will not cross a cell membrane. No, no way. It's a classical way to capture something in a compartment. And therefore, you might be paying for something that gets converted to vitamin B3 or garden variety, normal, the cheap one, and and overpay for the product. That's my personal opinion. I'm not affiliated with anyone. That's just me thinking biochemistry, essentially.
Okay, Alex, well, that's interesting to know. Of course, a lot of these supplements are very popular, and of course, I'm taking them. So I'm actually just taking a NMN supplement at the moment. I'm not taking an NR supplement. Obviously, with the destination of as those precursors for NAD+. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. And really, what you're saying is that I could be getting the same benefit by just taking a B3 supplementation. Is that right?
That is my opinion. There
Okay.
are other opinions. There is a lot of marketing around NMN, but that is my opinion. There is no significant benefit, and regular B3, be it nicotinic acid or nicotinamide. So any form B3, I think it's good. It's equally effective as NMN. Another thing is coenzyme Q10. It sounds fantastic. It appears in many products. And the problem with it is it's not effective. We're not lacking it, actually. And one hint at that is if you look at any product containing Q10, the recommended daily allowance will be conspicuously absent. So you won't find it anywhere. Small wonder, because it's not an essential nutrient. So I would save on that one if you purchase it individually. Sometimes it's bundled with everything in those one-a-day tablets, so it won't be harmful in any way, but I wouldn't spend too much on it. Now, there is this alpha lipoic acid. It's a cofactor for many enzymes in the energy metabolism. I've read different papers. Some of them confirm its efficacy. I don't have a strong opinion about it, but I think in general, it's a decent supplement. So if you're focusing on your energy metabolism, want to stave off fatigue or something, might be a good idea to have some.
Would you say, Alex, that is something that I'm not taking at the moment, that I should be taking?
No, I don't think it's strictly necessary. So, so here's the thing about supplements. I hear a lot about them. So my first impulse as a trained scientist is to go online to search for primary literature for published scientific papers, and to evaluate evidence. Now, it's sometimes difficult because anything that you throw at me, I can find like 15 peer-reviewed papers about showing how effective it is. However, there are different peer-reviewed papers and journals, so one needs to be able to really evaluate this evidence critically, and that's what I do for a living. I mean, that's my core skill set. So I go online, and pretty much most of those supplements turn out to be useless, because if something, let's say, works as an antioxidant in a test tube, it does not mean it will come into its place of business within the cell. Take glutathione, for instance, one of the most potent antioxidants, but it needs to be synthesized at the spot where it's needed. Otherwise, giving yourself a shot from the outside won't do much. L-carnitine is another thing. I know I happen to know something about it because I was considering it as a supplement. It transports fats into mitochondria for consumption for energy, for burning, literally with oxygen. And it's not the rate limiting step for utilization of fatty acids. So it's like you have an airport, you don't have any planes coming in, so you enhance the taxi service to the city and expect more to come. No, it doesn't work that way, because that's not the rate limiting step. So I would definitely say on L-carnitine, I did my homework, it's useless. Mito PQQ, well, it's electron transporter. To be perfectly honest, I cannot tell whether it makes sense to take it as a supplement. It shouldn't hurt. Similarly, this Mito Q Pure, I looked it up. There are some papers out that claim it's effective, and I would be inclined to say there might be something to it.
Yes, it's interesting because MitoQ is really got a lot of scientific evidence around it, both for health but also therapeutic applications. So that's quite interesting to hear you say that. Yeah, I have to say I did feel different once I started taking it, and I continue to do so.
That's good to hear. I really went totally unbiased, started looking through the literature, preparing for this conversation, okay, let's see this Mito Pure. Is it another one of those that there are aggressively marketed and don't do anything? And I actually was able to find some papers that I thought were decent evidence that there might be something to it, so I can recommend it. And speaking of recommendations, you mention gut bacteria things. It's a probiotic, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the gut bacteria side of my requirements is something that I've supplemented through a company called Human People. So what they do is they do a panel of tests, microbiome, blood, and saliva, and I then get a tailored package of supplements every month, which I then take daily, and that's what's in there basically.
So for cost effectiveness, if I were to allocate my budget for supplements, I'd go for probiotics. They're a fantastic thing. So there are many stories that sound great, but just don't work. And this is one story that sounds really great and works. It's not some niche field with a couple of guys working on it. It's a legitimate field like microbiome, and I think it's here to stay. It's going to get bigger. It's not going anywhere, because in and on us, we have about 1.2 kilograms or 3 pounds, about 3 pounds, if you will, of bacteria. And all this mass has more cells than we do because they're smaller. They're associated with the gut. And here's the fantastic part of the story. So you have the gut lined with about 70% of the immune system cells, because it's like the interface between what we are and what is outside. Those cells communicate, and they really do affect the inflammatory levels throughout the body, so much so that even psychiatrists recommend probiotics, because everything goes to the brain and those glial cells have some immune character to them. So it's very good, it's here to stay, and the system is always similar. So you get one core supplement that prepares everything. It's usually the genus Lactobacillus. It's the staple of a good microbiome. And then it creates an environment for other beneficial microorganisms to thrive. Now, the second component is diversity. And there are prebiotics, or like individualized pre-mixed supplements that will promote that diversity. But so we have pioneering species, and the whole ecosystem. So the principle is always, the more the merrier. Many of those who analyze the microbiome speak about a loss of diversity, not specific species of microorganisms. So long story short, highly recommend it. I'd allocate more budget to probiotics and to microbiome health than to other stuff, maybe.
That's interesting. And Alex, would you recommend things like kimchi and some of those other foodstuffs that people just put into their regular diet to help their gut microbiome?
Yes. So I do not have a strong opinion about whether pharmaceutical products are superior to the natural products, which are yogurt or kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha. Those are the classics. So I think the question is more of convenience and preference than of efficacy. So if you're happy with having natural probiotics, I think it's the way to go. Why not? Why not? And to nurture diversity. Now, there is this rule of thumb that many nutritionists promote that sounds like straight out of some self-help book. It is having many colors on your plate, but there is more to it. Different plant species, that's represented by the rainbow. So different plant species will tend to have different simple carbohydrates that we cannot break down, but the bacteria in our gut can. So it's like a natural prebiotic. And these two combined, I don't know, I'm not aware of studies that rigorously compare the two, but I would suspect they're about equally effective as pharmaceutical products. It's just easier for some people to get a pill a day and they're good.
It's interesting to hear, but I'm aware of a company that is actually working on that very thing at the moment. So that's really interesting to hear, Alex. But great. Well, I enjoy my kimchi, so I'll keep going with that.
An excellent source of, I think it's lactobacillus. I might be wrong, but I think it's primarily that. So it's a fantastic fermented food. So if you enjoy it, it's a natural probiotic right there.
Sounds good.
So this would cover pretty much everything that I find important. I mean, if you can shift a little bit more to strength training, nothing extreme, and something compatible with fatigue, like just enough not to trigger it. Your diet is fantastic. We just discussed supplements. I would recommend probiotics, and you're healthy. And so I would recommend another test, not no sooner than 6 months, maybe say 6, 8, 12 months, just to check how you're doing with some interventions. That would be what I find important. Is there something else that you wish to discuss?
No, I think that's been great, Alex. I've really enjoyed the detailed focus on me. This is great as part of the service to have professional like yourself with so much detailed information at your hands to then convey to me as part of my GlycanAge test. So I'm very grateful for that. And what I like as a normal human being as well is like simple instructions, right? Which you did at the end there, which is very helpful. So well, really appreciate your time today. It's been great.
Okay, I really enjoyed the conversation. I'll type up this summary so you have it for your record, and I'll leave my email in there. So if there is anything else, and this offer is good forever. I'm used to discussing via email. So if there is anything that you think that I might provide some useful information on, please by all means contact me anytime. I'll be happy to continue the discussion.
Great. Alex, thanks very much. Really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, and I wish you a good day. Thank you so much.